Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
One of the keys to the understanding that I've been sharing these many weeks, the realization of the unity and divinity of all life, is this understanding that the stuff of creation is intelligence, that every atom, every molecule, every cell, every organic process is a cycle of polarity, of movement from the source into a field and returning to its source. And this cycle, that everything in nature, everything that we in the cosmos is cyclical, is actually a cybernetic mechanism. It's a feedback loop that is self-correcting. And this self-correction is the definition of intelligence. That every atom, every molecule, every cell, every organism is expressing a state of homeostasis, taking in its interaction with its environment, and self-correcting in the next cycle. And this is our definition of intelligence. And this recursiveness at the speed of life is indeed the definition of consciousness, that the stuff of creation is consciousness. It's what's going on in every atom, every molecule, every cell, this cybernetic mechanism, this feedback, this self-correction is the essence of intelligence. And that the nature of life is a self-organizing intelligence. The defining quality of life is it's self-creating, that it's constantly recreating itself. It's constantly, so that over a course of 7 years, literally every cell of your body has recreated itself, that you have a totally new body, even though you appear to be more or less the same, though gradually going downhill. Virtually every cell of your body has renewed itself and has recreated itself numerous times. So I feel like a couple of the graphics that I use really illustrate this point beautifully. So I want to return to these graphics once again. So here we're looking at any energy field, every energy field, and we're saying that every vector of energy, Dr. Stone describes energy fields as a fountain spray of energy. So here we're saying an energy field actually radiates from its source into the field a theoretically infinite number of vectors to sustain the field and to sustain all the levels of that field. And that all of the energy moving from the source moves out to the field and then returns to the source. and that this movement is happening at the speed of light. So here we're looking at just one vector of energy moving from the source into the field, and again defining the field, and again that this vector is a feedback loop, which is taking in the experience of the field and its relationship to its environment, and then that is being fed into the core, and the field is self-correcting to maintain its homeostasis and its viability in nature as. Now, part of this perspective is an understanding that all creation is the fabric of intelligence, and one of the qualities of this intelligence is that we have the gift of freedom, that we were born in freedom, that the nature of this intelligence is that it's free to self-correct, that it's free within the confines of universal law to attempt to maintain its homeostasis and to negotiate through its expression, its relationship to its environment. So it's really, for me, it's really profound that our inherent nature is both freedom and intelligence, that the stuff of every atom and molecule and cell is intelligence. So we're saying this recursive dynamic at the speed of life is what we would call consciousness, or what we would call intelligence. That we live in an infinite fabric of intelligence. Now, the second aspect that's illustrated in this dynamic is this movement from the source out into the field can be defined mathematically by the mathematics of the golden ratio spiral, that all life fields move from the source into the field through the mathematics of the golden ratio spiral. And what's important about the golden ratio spiral is it allows an infinite recursiveness, that allows atoms to meld into molecules, to meld into cells and organs and organisms, that it is infinitely recursive from the quark to the galaxy. And the golden ratio spiral is what underlies the unity of all life. You know, if you ask yourself for a moment, how does this breath of life, the only thing that is, the key thing that is sustaining this life is this breath of life, that somehow this breath spirals down to bring life to every atom and molecule, every organ, every system, every level of coherence in the body. And the way that this happens is because all life fields in this universe means attuned to one coil, and that coil is expressed in the golden ratio spiral. So this golden ratio spiral breathes from the macrocosm of the cosmos right down to the microcosm of the DNA, and from the microcosm of the DNA, from the quarks of the atomic fields. It's the same organizing intelligence, the same fabric of recursiveness from molecule to a galaxy, and that this can be described mathematically as the golden ratio spiral. So we're talking about the stuff of creation as intelligence. We're talking about creation as a unity. We've been talking this morning about the recursiveness of life and how the golden ratio spiral makes that possible. Let's look here at that dynamic in this brilliant illustration from Dan Winters, this brilliant occultist Dan Winters, did the work and many years ago created this illustration of how the golden spot, how the vector of energy radiating from the source creates what he calls the Grail Cup. And the defining characteristic of the Grail Cup is it is infinitely recursive, which is both our definition of consciousness and an illustration on how the breath breathes from the quark to the galaxy as a unity.
Notice how this spiral golden mean, if we see it from above, going down a cone, and then rotated it to the side, begins to look like the tongue of a serpent there.
Now it's moving.
This is the term serpent power.
Yeah.
And later we're going to revolve this form into something we call the Grail Cup. This is reminiscent of how it is that we get this recursion from the large world into the small, idealized by this golden mean spiral. So we can take this spiral now. This is one spiral seen from 4 views. The top left is a top view, and then to the right we have a side view. Bottom left is another side view, and bottom right is an oblique view. And then we begin to revolve this spiral, and we get a cup shape. This cup is infinitely recursive. You can zoom into it. First, let's turn it around to see the different viewpoints of the cup. Now we see that we can zoom in, and we'd see a cup, inside a cup, infinite. We'd always see the same thing. This is the essence of what is self-embedded. The definition of consciousness is recursion, and the sense of the term fractal. Till by turning and turning we come round right. Sense here is that that light cone going down concentric dodecahedron 60 degree, which we use to ratchet into this form, the Grail Cup, is the same dodeca that ratchets to make DNA, so that really it is the genetic material itself that was referred to mythically as the cup of the Grail that holds the light, the memory, because it is the idealization of the path for this recursion. So that the gene pool itself is this recursive embedded cup that allows us to catch the light with what flows like lightning in our very bloodstream. The cup.
This brilliantly illustrates the unity of all energy. And because of the dynamics of the golden ratio spiral, this same life breath is able to move from the tiniest quark to the infinite galaxies. As it's really interesting because Dan was mentioning the dodecahedron shape of the DNA, and astrophysicists now tell us that everything that we know about the universe is a dodecahedron, which again is defined by the golden ratio spiral. All life is one, all life is a unity, and the defining characteristic of this life is it is a fabric of intelligence. The only thing there is intelligence. That what we're talking about is a field of energy, and that energy is intelligence, that at certain points that field crystallizes into our dimension, and at other points that field goes beyond our dimension, carried on the infinite breath of this infinite mystery of life and consciousness.
gamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityoma amritam gamaya om shanti 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 Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam Uvarukamiva bandhanam